Okay, good afternoon. My name is Ashley Sweeney. I'm the Training and Technical Assistance Coordinator at OFA. And welcome to the Ohio Housing Finance Agency's webinar on the 2018 Annual Owners Reporting. This webinar will be focusing on what is needed to complete your annual owner report submission to OFA. I just want to make sure everyone can actually hear me. If you're having any troubles hearing me, please let me know just by entering something in the questions bar. If not, we can just continue on. I don't see any questions, so hopefully everyone can hear me. Hi, Cynthia. Okay, I'm glad you can hear me. I'm actually under Rachel Grass's profile, but I will actually be presenting today. Okay, so today we will cover how to manage users, reviewing errors and warnings, reviewing utility allowances, exporting events, entering and finalizing your tenant data, and lastly, submitting the annual certification on each project. We will start by discussing deadlines for the 2018 annual owner reporting. You can access a PowerPoint on the GoToWebinar access bar summarizing what is covered today. The email reminder sent out stated that you'll be able to submit questions during the webinar. Hopefully, as we go through the information, a lot of your questions will be answered. If not, we will try to answer as many questions at the end of the presentation. If your questions are not answered during this session or in the follow-up email, you can always contact the DevCo Help Desk for assistance. Here are some DevCo resources. I want to note that DevCo was offline from December 31st to January 4th due to updates to the database. After reactivation, a few issues were experienced with fields on the tick, including doubling of incomes and HCV payments not being visible. These issues have been resolved. However, currently additional steps are needed on composition updates, which we will go over today. If your tick is printing incorrect information, please add a clarification record with the tick showing the correct information and explaining that DevCo was not working correctly at the time. Any issues found should be reported to the DevCo Help Desk, and we apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. So actually, I'm going to go back to the deadlines. So the 2018 Annual Owner Certification and Tenant Data for all projects are due on Friday, March 1st, 2019. Owners should ensure any property changes that have occurred during the 2018 calendar year are entered into DevCo online. New projects or those in lease-up phase must submit an annual owner certification and tenant data if one or more residents were income qualified during the 2018 calendar year. Projects only funded with Ohio Housing Trust funds or other gap financing will need to submit tenant data on just the units that qualify for gap financing. Projects in extended use, meaning after the first 15 years of tax credit compliance, are required to report on all rental activity in the 2018 year. Okay, now let's get started. We will be using one of our test accounts to show DevCo online. So first, we're going to go to OFA's homepage, which is www.ohiohome.org, which you can see here. There's a DevCo icon close to the bottom of the homepage in our Quick Links portal. So I'm clicking on. This DevCo homepage has a link to the DevCo portal at the top on the right side of the Quick Links guide. I want to point out the DevCo Compliance User Guide, which is the third link in this section. This guide has all of the information we will discuss today. This is an excellent resource to have at your fingertips. I suggest printing it out or keeping a bookmark on your computer. Most questions we receive in the DevCo Help Desk are answered in this guide. I also want to bring your attention to the next link, which is DevCo Videos. This page contains how-to videos that cover the major areas of DevCo used in reporting. The videos include how to register in DevCo, how to manually enter a tenant event, how to manage property users, how to import events/XML Upload, how to enter a student update or certification, how to enter a composition update, how to enter a transfer event, and there are historical webinars from our annual reporting from 2017 report and 2016 reporting years. Okay, so next we're going to go to the DevCo login page. Once you get to the login page, you need to enter your username and password. Each user in DevCo should have their own profile. If you are not registered in DevCo, just click the New Users link here and follow the instructions. Once you have registered, the online project owner for the property, who is from your own organization, will give you access. Only if you are a new project will you need someone from OFA to approve your DevCo access. Section 1 of our user guide gives you step-by-step instructions on how to register. If you are having trouble registering, once you have looked over the information in our user guide, please contact the DevCo Help Desk for assistance. Oh, sorry, I'm logged in here. I did not mean to do that. So I'm going to log back out and show you how to log in, which is just putting in your username and your password. And once you log in, it'll bring you to the programs page. To complete the annual owner reporting requirements, click on the tenant income certification/owner certification link. This will lead you to the property listings page. All of your projects you have approved access for should be listed under properties assigned to you. During your registration, you are required to enter each project number you need access to. Each project should have a 2018 and a 2019 reporting year available. We want to go to the 2018 year. And again, I will be using a test property. Go to the 2018 year. So first we're going to discuss managing users. This portal is on the left side of the page. Okay, when you register in DevCo, you are asked about the permissions you want access to. The online property owner, who should always register first in DevCo for a new property, has permissions to approve or deny access to all other users on the property. They can finalize a property and submit the annual certification. And they can also edit information, which is adding events and utility allowances. So the next level of access is a property manager. They have permissions to manage users and edit information. Next is the OC editor, who can only edit information on a property. And lastly is the OC viewer, who can only view information on a property. This is included in the handout that you can access from the webinar session. Note that we do not use any of the 8609 progress report access types. Unless you have project owner or property manager access in DevCo, you will not see the current page I am on or the manage users link on the property details screen. Okay, so this is the property details page. This page should have your OFA awards and fundings, your ownership and management information for the property, which you see the awards here, the ownership information here, and the management company information. If your owner entity information and/or management company information are incorrect, please contact the compliance analyst listed on the project so they can update this for you. So in this case, this is Michelle Carroll. So you would contact her if any information was incorrect. And please make sure that you give as detailed updates as possible when contacting your analyst about the changes being made to any information. A new feature on the property details page is the rent and income levels for each property. Each box shows what percentages are available and how many units are needed for each percentage. This is a great way to see how many units are currently entered for your property versus what is required. This feature is for tax credit properties only, and a similar feature for home and trust funded properties are planned for the future. On the left side of the property details page, you should see the property name and each building identification number or bin under it. Click the plus sign to view each unit in a bin. Make sure all of the units and bins are labeled correctly. Click on the unit and it'll bring you to the unit information page. The unit name, bedroom size, square footage have all been locked down, but if this information is incorrect, please contact the DevCo Help Desk so we can update it for you. You are actually able to update the AMI percentage, and the unit identity is now identified once you're adding events in DevCo. So next we will discuss utility allowances. Utility allowances need to be reviewed and updated yearly to make sure they are entered correctly for a reporting year. If you have owner-paid utilities, this needs to be marked on the building details page for each building. So click the bin and check the owner-pays utility box and then update. Okay. To return to the property details page, you have to click on the actual property name, and then the utility allowances page is accessible on the right side of the property details page. Utility allowances that were used anytime in the 2018 year need to be added in DevCo. You may use your 2017 utility allowance if the effective date for your 2018 utility allowances are after January 1st, 2018. Utility allowances need to be entered for each type of allowance, not by unit or by bin. Each type meaning bedroom size or apartment layout. For example, you may have single family versus townhomes, or your one bedroom versus two bedrooms. To add a new utility allowance, click Add New. We're going to skip over the description part since this will automatically populate later in the process. So first you need to choose your verified date. This date needs to be updated yearly in order for DevCo to work correctly. Since some effective dates for UAs last more than 1 year, the verified date was added for compliance and identification purposes. So I'm going to add in a verified date. Okay, next, you want to make sure you have the correct effective date. This date is listed on the actual utility allowance. So we're going to put an effective date in here. The building style is a new field that can be chosen on the utility allowance. This must be chosen if you're using an XML file, including updating any applicable 2017 UAs. But if you are manually entering the data, you should use this field for more detail in the automatically generated description. The building style types have been defined as the following. So you have duplex, triplex, or quad, which are 2 through 4 units in a single structure. High-rise, which is 7+ stories with 5 or more units. a low rise with 1 through 6 stories with 5 or more units, a single family, which is 1 unit structure detached from any other house, permanently fixed in its foundations, and townhome, which is 1 unit structure separated from adjoining structures by all walls extending from ground to roof. So if you have any questions or ever need a refresher on the definitions, just hover over the building styles drop down and it'll give you that information there. Okay. Excuse me. Next, you want to choose the correct bedroom size and utility allowance. So we're going to choose this. And then we have 1 bedroom, and this is a PHA allowance type. The utility allowance page description field was updated at the end of last year. Now, once you add the verified date, effective date, building style, bedroom size, and allowance type, the UA description will automatically populate, as you see here. This is to help standardize utility allowance descriptions, since you need to be able to decipher between each UA with only this description. The description is the only thing that shows up on a unit when creating an event. Each description will show the verified date as a 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and 2-digit day, the building style, which is low rise here, the bedroom size, which is 1 bedroom, the allowance type, which is PHA, and then the effective date, which is also a 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and 2-digit day. If you don't like the standardized description, you are able to change it. Just please make sure you are as detailed as possible in your descriptions if you do so. Lastly, each category for utility allowances must be entered. Examples are the source, the amount, and paid by fields. If your utility allowances are owner paid, you can mark it here in this section, but that is not required. So I'm just going to add in some utility allowance amounts. Put electric and trash. Okay, so once you have entered the correct figures, choose the appropriate bins for the utility allowance on the right side. So you can choose the bins. If you don't identify the correct bins for your utility allowances, they will not appear when you're adding an event to a unit. Once all the information is entered correctly, push save. You can see that saved here. If your utility allowances have not changed since last year, you are able to use the copy feature. Press copy next to the UA you want to use, which I've already did a new one for my 1 bedroom, so we're going to copy the 2 bedroom utility allowance. And all we need to do here is then update the verified date, because again, that has to be updated every year. And after you update that information, just push save. And again, you see the description has updated. Again, if you don't like this, you can always change this to something that you do want to see there once you go into your utility allowance page. Okay, so once your utility allowances are entered correctly, you can begin to enter your tenant data. You need to enter tenant data based on when it occurred. Do not enter data by event type. For example, entering all your move-ins, then going back to enter all of your move-outs would be incorrect. Make sure the last event listed for the current household has been entered. You will see the information grayed out, like on this event. So if I click here, you see the last event was a composition update that was entered. Make sure this information is correct before adding a new event. If there is no information grayed out on the last event, that means it was either a move out or a transfer out. So if we go to Unit 2, you see it's grayed out, but you don't see any information, so you know you're ready to put in a new move-in event. If an event was missing from a reporting year, you need to go back to that actual year to enter the correct event. You want to please refer to the original tenant income certification or other documentation to complete any missing events. When entering a move-in, make sure the unit is listed as vacant on the unit information page. So you can go to the unit information page by clicking on the actual unit name or number, and you see the status here is vacant. So we will be ready to enter and do move-in event. Okay, so all updates for each unit need to be added to DevCo. So we're gonna put in a date here. So all updates can include move-ins, move-outs, recertifications, transfers, composition updates, rent updates, and/or student updates. If the unit has home or Ohio Housing Trust funds, you will need to do recertifications for the unit. It does not matter if the 2018 year was for your full third-party recertification or self-certification. You would need to select recertify as your event type. Excuse me. If the unit does qualify for home or trust funds. Unless there was a rent update or composition update on a different day than your tenant recertified, you can make all the necessary changes during the recertification event. If you have market units, this is where you need to change the unit identity. So you would change it to market here. And as you can see, the rent and income levels automatically update to market. So I'm going to delete this event. Okay. If your property is 100% tax credit, meaning no market units, you need to do a student update for all of your units. So let's put in here. Here's a student update. Properties in extended use are not required to complete annual student updates. However, you may choose to do so if you are planning to apply for OFA funding in the future for the same property. If there has been any rent changes anytime in 2018 for a unit, you need to do a rent update. If a household member other than the head of household has moved out and/or moved in, you need to do a composition update. If your tenant moved from one unit to another in the same property, you will need to do a transfer event. You would choose transfer out as the event type. DevCo gives unit options to transfer your tenant into once you pick this event type. You have to make sure that the unit you are trying to transfer into is vacant before you do this event. If not, that particular unit will not be an option. If you're having any issues choosing the correct bin or unit during a transfer event, please contact the DevCo Help Desk. Delete this. Just going to go back. Okay. Okay. Please remember to add the income information for all event types that need to be printed. So I'm just going to show you here. So say you had a recertification event. You want to make sure you're adding in the event's income and the non-asset income section and the asset income sections. Please review the current notice of the additional steps needed for composition updates. Be aware that the change to how you add income during a composition update, household members' information must be saved first. Then you need to go back and add in the correct non-asset income and add their asset income and push save again. Also, please remember to use the Calculate Total Household Income and Member Income button when adding income to an event. So it shows you here, there's an additional information on how to enter the income information for composition updates, which means you just have to add the household member first, push update, and then go back and add the income and push update again. And the last type of event is a move out. If you had a tenant that lived in a unit in 2018 but also moved out during the year, you need to record this in DevCo. Please make sure that the move-in event is entered in first before you try to enter in their move-out event. If you had a tenant move in to the same unit after this, you will need to add them as well. I just want to reiterate that we are concerned with all events that happened during the 2018 year. If you try to enter all of your move-ins, then move-outs, this will create errors on your unit status. And again, it shows the unit status here. Events need to be entered in chronological order to ensure that information is stored properly in the database. You will receive an error if events are not entered in order. We recommend adding units unit by unit. So we're going to go back to the property details page. So from the property details page, now we can go to the export events feature. If you would like to view the progress you have by entering all your tenant events, click Export Events. This will only show the events entered for the reporting year you were in. This will give you an overview of all of the data that you've entered for each unit. To convert this chart into an Excel spreadsheet, just click Export Events, and you can open the spreadsheet from here, down at the bottom. This is a great tool to make sure you have entered all the necessary events for a reporting year. If you have compliance software and are planning to upload an XML file into DevCo, you can do this in the Import Events portal. We will not be demonstrating the XML upload process today, but we will be having an exclusive XML webinar on Wednesday, January 23rd. In the meantime, if you have any XML files that are ready to be uploaded to DevCo, please email them to devcohelp@ohiohome.org. Our DevCo team will be uploading XML files from now until Wednesday, January 16th. Please make sure that the XML file is in the 4.0 NAMA standard, which is an update from the 2.0 standard that we have been using in the past. After January 16th, the export feature will be available for everyone to upload XML files, and our team will no longer be responsible for uploading the XMLs for properties. Okay, let's go back. If you are unable to add an event because of an error in red, this must be fixed before you can save an event. So, an example. Say this was not marked, the income level, and I try to push update. You see the red error messages at the top. That's telling me that I need to pick the income level before I can move on. In this example, you see that the income level wasn't chosen correctly. Just keep in mind that you are only able to choose the rent and income levels that are stated on the project's restrictive covenant and/or funding agreement. If you think your information is incorrect, please contact DevCo Help, and we will look into your correct income and rent limits. You can also see the correct limits listed on the property details page now. At the top of the property details page, you will find an alert about issues with your tenant data. So if we go back to this page, here's the issues page here. So you want to click on the link to review the property's issues. The severity listed will be warning or error. If the severity is warning, you are able to finalize your tenant data with the issue listed. If the severity is error, you will have to correct the issue before you can finalize your tenant data. Both type of issues should be reviewed to see if they can be resolved. So in this case, it's telling me that the utility allowance is required. So I would click on the event and try to click the correct utility allowance. But I have to make sure that I choose the correct one, which this one doesn't need it since it has owner paid utilities. Okay, if the tenant data is correct, please disregard the warnings, like in this case. If you have an error and need help with correcting the tenant data, please contact the DevCo Help Desk. After you have reviewed your utility allowances, the tenant events, and resolved errors, it is now time to finalize the year. If everything is in order, this is a very simple process. You will begin on the property details page and then select Finalize Year to start the finalization process. You first have a list of any unresolved errors or issues that you can look through to see if they can be resolved before going into the Finalize Year process. Note that once Finalize Year process has started on a property, it is now in the property review status, which means you are no longer able to add events, but are confirming that everything that is needed is included before you submit your tenant data. Warnings do not need to be resolved to continue. However, they may come up again when the analyst completes a compliance check that is a part of the AOR review process, and a warning could potentially be listed in a findings letter. So now we want to finally click to proceed to finalize, and then push finalize again. And now you have submitted your tenant data. After the submission is complete, the Finalize Year button will now be a receipt button. As you see here, it is a good idea to print this receipt as well as saving an export of your events for your records. In addition to the receipt being available, the property will now be in the status of finalized for the reporting year that you have just completed. As a reminder, these are the statuses in DevCo used for annual reporting. So if a reporting year is active, the property is open for certification and you're able to add any events. If it's in the property review status, the property is in the finalization process and can no longer be edited. If the property is finalized, that means that OFA is ready to review and editing is no longer possible for tenant events on the reporting year. Monitoring and resolution statuses are OFA's review of the property before completion. And then the completed stage means that all of the issues have been resolved for the year and it is closed for review. So next we're going to go over the second part of the annual owner reporting submission, which is the annual owner certification or annual certification as listed in DevCo. To access this, again, you need to be on the property details page on the right side. The first page is the property's general information page that needs to be reviewed. If any of your project's information is incorrect, you can note it here. Please be as detailed as possible when explaining any changes that are needed. So I'm just going to look through. All of my information is up to date, so you can either save it or you can save it and push next. So the next page is the annual certification page. Depending on your funding and compliance year, you will choose the certification type or types. So this project here for our test purposes is in its first 15 year of compliance, and it also has home funds. So we would choose gap financing and the tax credit certification types and push load. If you're having issues or have any questions about which type of certifications to choose, please read the top instructions here. You want to make sure you're choosing the correct certification types because the questions that are listed on this page excuse me, are dependent upon what type of funding you have for the property. So now I want to go through and answer all of the questions, which I'm just going to go through here. I did this earlier. So if there's no changes, I want to push save and then next. So once you have answered all the questions, click next, excuse me, to complete and enter your information on the signature page. So again, you put your name, your title, company, email address, and your phone number and push submit. This is giving me a message that there was an owner management change, so I need to notify OFA, and a broker's license is needed since we have a third-party management company for this project. So just push OK. And you can either print this certification or close it. And now you're able to go back into the annual certification at any time to print it if necessary. And you will see a red date stamp showing you that the annual certification has been completed. Okay, so this brings our presentation to an end. We thank you for attending today's webinar.